They were the heroes from the future, teenagers protecting the universe from those that would sow the seeds of chaos. Each had unique powers and abilities, and though they often had their differences, they came together to save the day as the Legion of Superheroes. Now, you can be a part of their adventures and learn the history of the future in the Legion Clubhouse.
This week on the Legion Clubhouse, it's the return of Invisible Kid.
Legion of Superheroes number 299. Not a ghost of a chance. Published May 1983. Written by Keith Giffen and Paul Levitz with art by Keith Giffen. Synopsis. Invisible Kid meets his predecessor, and Wildfire gets his body back. But what's the connection?
Oh, we're getting into some hot action this week, Matthew. We're one away from issue 300.
I know, 300. So we'll do 299, and then, yeah. So we got the Invisible Kids here doing their...
Yeah, so last time that we checked in with Invisible Kid 2, he had jumped through, he had saw an opening, and he jumped through because he thought Wildfire had been sucked away into another dimension. And apparently he was, and he finds Wildfire is there with his full body restored, and Wildfire is in this creepy place, but he loves it. He's got his body back. He's wanting to hang out. He has no desire to go home.
A creepy harem.
Well, so that's the question, though, right? Is he creating it, or is it the reality that's creating it? Because there's a couple of different ways you can go in that sense. Because I get the feeling that the reality wants to keep you there for some reason. I'm not saying that this is some kind of an afterlife or anything like that, but there is definitely a sense that this place is giving the people that it feels like it can get to stay a reason to stay, including having the original Legion Clubhouse and the original Invisible Kid show up just in time.
And that's what's interesting. That's actually kind of weird, because when we last saw Lyle Norg, he was seeing that ghost girl Mila, and this issue flat out says, I was scammed by a hallucination, and I've spent the past 10 years in this weird, hellish half state. And that may be the scariest thing. To me, that's scarier than Darkseid.
I mean,
they thought he was dead, but no, he's trapped in this empty hell. And the girl that he thought he was going to be happy with forever just turned out to be,
a devil. A devil coming to tempt you, Matthew. A devil coming to tempt you, which is why they can't play Dungeons and Dragons in this issue anymore, because they've already got the devil tempting people in one way to steal your soul. They can't have Dungeons and Dragons, and they get the CCA all over you for that.
Well, Siobhan also doesn't know the rules.
To be fair, neither do you. So, you know. So the question is, though, the first Invisible Kid, is upset that somebody is taking his place. And I'm not sure that if he's upset that the Legion has moved on after 10 years and found another Invisible Kid, or if he's upset that there's a black man who is now the new Invisible Kid. That's the part that I'm not super sure of in this interpretation.
What context would give you the implication that Lyle has any issues with Jacques being black?
I don't know, except that it's the 80s, right?
Right.
So, people were not very friendly to people of color. They're not today. They weren't then. So that's the question that I have, because he seems to be a little bit too upset that he's just been replaced. And I'm wondering if his anger stems from something else besides the fact that, well, everybody thought you were dead, dude. And so we moved on. It's been 10 years. So that's why I'm wondering if there's something else going on in here. The other thing that's really weird in this, now, granted, both Wildfire and Jacques are yanked out by Mumbo Jumbo. But at no point does Jacques say, hey, we need to go back and get Invisible Kid. He's not dead. He's just in another dimension.
And that's an interesting kind of moment here, because the implication is that he just sort of teleports them out. He focuses on where he wants to go and kind of uses the way he would use his invisibility power, and just boom, teleports them someplace. But The weird thing about this, and something that's extremely, extremely unsatisfying even decades later, is Jacques' ability to do this kind of comes and goes and is never actually dealt with in any satisfying manner.
Oh,
and
almost
usually
like the other character that makes a weird noise and can jump through dimensions.
Yeah. It's just, normally I wouldn't whine about that during this issue, but I don't feel like we ever really do. We do get some follow-up on certain things, but we don't necessarily get a really clear concept of, first of all, why the invisible serum gave Jacques this additional power. And more importantly, what the heck is going on? But yeah, it feels very awkward that he just sort of says, okay, I'm going to go home now. Bye. And Lyle literally just walks away. You can almost hear the David Banner sad.
Well, yeah, when
piano.
he realizes that he's almost going to kill this guy.
He's like, and then, if you're alive, run away. If you're a mirage, fade.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
And that's the other thing is that Jacques is like, well, I just want to reappear where I left. And he doesn't. He appears in a place that he's, for all we know, never been to before.
He has been to Orlando. I swear he has, because he was there during the Dark Side nonsense. Spoiler, by the way, he shows up in the Council of Oracles at the Royal Court of Queen Projectra. So yeah, I guess if spoilers for something that came out before most of the people listening were born count as spoilers. But that's another moment where I'm just like, I don't know. It feels a little contrived, honestly.
Well, unless there's a reason why he needs to be there for like next issue or something. It doesn't make a lot of sense for him to just reappear here. It really doesn't. Yeah. It's one of those, hey, everybody, remember Princess Projectra and Karate Kid? Oh, wait, Karate Kid's not here. I wonder why. Oh, go check out Brave and the Bold on sale now. So, it's... I'm not satisfied with this ending because on the one hand, we get to see what Jacques' power is. We get to see Wildfire back in his body and, having his own wish fulfillments come true, perhaps by this universe. But at the same time, we see the original Invisible Kid being very angry and not understanding. And at no point does anyone try to say, he's alive, we need to bring him back. And if anything, that would be the first thing that I would say when I come back, when I see Princess Projectra, is, Lyle's alive, we've got to save him. And none of that happens.
He does at one point mention that he worries that it's just a figment of his imagination. But I think that this being one of the first real solo missions, I mean, honestly, Lyle's first mission was a solo mission because he attacked Computo alone. But the first time we see Lyle actually acting on his own, it does kind of make sense that this new, this Tyro Legionnaire might make a mistake like that. But it's also weird because the moment throughout the issue, it kind of feels like he's doing well.
Lyle or Jacques?
Jacques. It feels like Jacques is doing well. He manages to follow Wildfire into the weird dimension. He manages to wander around. He figures out who Lyle is. He immediately is like, okay, this place is feeding you some sort of, nonsense. It's showing you things that it wants you to see, Wildfire, and we just need to get out of here. We need to go home. And I feel like that's a strong instinct for Jacques, especially, at this point, 3 or 4 issues into similar tenure, you'll find Legionnaires still going, I don't know what to do. I'm a scared new guy and stuff. And I'm just like, no, no, just shut up.
And I question. So do you think that Lyle is really in this dimension, is alive, or if there's wish fulfillment stuff going on in this dimension, is the dimension feeding Jacques the illusion that Lyle is around, so he has a reason to justify himself being a member of the Legion?
Using the information presented to us in 298 and 299, the implication is strongly that Lyle really is in this dimension. Now, my memory does retain the actual denouement, for lack of a better word, in honor of the Invisible Kid in his French, of how this story ends. But at this point, I feel like we are definitely being presented. This is what happened to Invisible Kid. Whoa, what a weird thing. And now what are we going to do? Can we save him? Are there going to be two Invisible Kids? It's going to be a whole schmagegi.
Because I could see, if this is a wish fulfillment thing, I could see this being interpreted as he's just an illusion.
Right.
I still don't like the story. I just, there's something about it that just doesn't sit right with me. And it could just be that since the Dark Side event, and it hasn't been a whole lot of issues since then, but these guys are just losing upon losing upon losing every chance they get. They cannot catch a break. They've had an epic win with a lot of tragedy, but then the tragedy just keeps coming and they cannot catch a break.
It's compounding. And I feel like, last issue was all about Cosmic Boy and his torture. But the issue before that, I seem to recall complaining that it felt like kind of a housekeeping issue. It felt like, putting the players in position for something, but doing it in such a way that you kind of felt the thumbprints of the author. And I feel like this issue has that too. It feels like, why is this happening? Because they need to be somewhere, or we're setting this up so that when the big 300 comes around next issue, we've got something, we've got these things in place.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll come back to that story at some point in the future. Meanwhile, back on Asteroid 73Q, where they were fighting the Kund guy, we see the White Witch, we see Block, and we see Dawnstar all deciding what they should do next when he shows back up and starts blasting his way around. And I will say that I don't know if it is Keith Giffen that has a love of having Legionnaires smashed into the hard surfaces with their face first, or what, but with all the face smashing that goes into hard ground. And this is the second time in probably a dozen issues, maybe even 8 issues, that Dawnstar has had her face smashed directly into the ground at terminal velocity or faster. Why is she no dead? Why are not more of the Legionnaires suffering traumatic brain trauma from this stuff? And does anybody think about the reality of this guy that's like 8 foot tall and full of muscles, who can punch, block, and knock him down, grabbing a woman's face and smashing her into the concrete? Why is she no dead?
Well, I believe, and I don't know if it's ever been established, but I believe that Dawnstar is tougher than your average person, just evidenced by her ability to fly unaided through space. But your question is a valid one, because we've never been shown, hey, this character is a little bit invulnerable or even particularly strong.
I mean,
we've seen her super speed.
We see her after the fight. She's got one little bruise on her lip before the Kund battle fleet arrives. And it's like, I think she'd be a little bit more beat up. Also, apparently, a Block, who's made of rock, who can take a blast from this machine that the warrior has, can still get face stomped into submission fairly easily. Which, again,
if you stomp on his face, it hurts.
But again, he just took a blast to the chest with this giant kazap kaboom ray. That's the sound. Well, that's what the sound effects are. Kazap kaboom, and he brushes that off, but takes a stomp to the face, and he's out. He's out of the fight.
It's a powerful stomp. I mean, Karlak is a Kund warrior with extensive cybernetic enhancement. I mean,
I guess I'm more questioning, again, ill-defined powers with Block. I know he's your favorite Legionnaire, but his powers are so ill-defined. He is invulnerable. If he's invulnerable, a stomp to the face should not knock him out.
a stomp from to the face from someone as powerful as he is could.
I mean, the very word invulnerable means he has no vulnerability.
Invulnerable, okay, in the Legion of Superheroes colloquial way of speaking. I mean, Mon-El is invulnerable, and he was blasted by Darkseid and went into a coma for 14 days and was just a bloody mess. I mean, Superboy is invulnerable. We see him constantly getting his head caved in. So invulnerable is a matter of degree, I feel like, in the 30th century.
I think there are degrees of invulnerability, but I think that they haven't figured out what Blocks is yet.
No, they have not really settled a lot of what Block's powers are, because that whole thing about absorbing density is starting to go by the wayside, and will continue to do so. Spoilers.
Meanwhile, Misa the White Witch show up and me mad.
Okay, no.
That's her name, Misa.
No, Misa.
Yeah.
Misa
the White Witch.
No.
And the cool thing is, now I'll give her some
Jar Jar
so much better than Princess Projectra ever could be. Much better than any other person who claims to have magic abilities. She just steps up and takes this gun that Karlach the Magnificent is carrying around and just turns it into flowers. That's great. Yeah. That's brilliant. And then she's biffing him and bopping him around all over the place. She's pretty powerful. I like her. Yeah. I like her.
She basically says anything on your body that's not organic is now going to short out. And he's like, it was beautiful.
Yeah. I like that she used one of her 5th level spells for this.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that's only a 3rd level. Because it's just like a spell of differentiation.
But again, the ultimate is, the Coons are back. And that's not a good thing. Also, we see Siobhan and Element Lad trying to play Scrabble. And apparently there are no modern games for people to play in the future.
Maybe there are, and we just don't see them.
I know, that's the problem, right?
Maybe it's like Spock's chess set. It's 7-dimensional Scrabble. Just keep in mind, Jan's a Traumite. What language is he playing Scrabble in? I mean,
well, it looks like they're using Interlac is what it looks like.
Oh, have you seen Interlac? Interlac is terrifying.
I mean, it's there on the screen.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining that everybody is speaking Interlac.
Jan likes old things, though, too. I mean, it's a thing.
We also get a little bit of setup and build up because Duplicate Boy heads back to wherever he was at.
Duplicate Boy is going home to Lalor after beating the bejesus.
Yeah, but he went someplace else because all of the rest of the heroes of Lalor are there at this place, and I don't think it's Earth.
No, and they're also there with Dev-Em. I believe they're on Weber's world.
Oh, Weber's world. That's right.
Yeah, Dev-Em. You remember Dev-Em, the knave from Krypton?
I do. He's Superman's Superboy's. Yeah.
Disappeared for 20 years, showed up a couple of issues ago for a second or two, and is now apparently just back. Yeah,
he's just hanging out. And then we also get introduced to a big old lizard man who we saw a while ago, I want to say.
Yeah, during the Earth War saga around 240 or 242.
Yeah, which was like 5 years ago.
His name is Antir,
and apparently he's a slave to somebody.
Yeah,
so
something bad is up with
something
Antir.
Bad is definitely up.
His master.
And then the only other thing that we get in this issue, I think, is a moment with Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl at the doctor's office, and the visit is just taking an excruciatingly long time. I mean, in the entire time, the Invisible Kid has gone into the dream world to rescue Wildfire. He's gotten into a fight. We've seen Misa take down the Kund warrior, and then we see all of the Legion teaming up to beat up the Kund invasion force. And so,
which, by the way, is pretty impressive. Cosmic Boy and Star Boy and Sun Boy just kind of go.
And I noticed that Star Boy is also under the thrall of Eclipso. And also, if you go back, Lizard Man has also got the Eclipso stuff going on.
If you say Eclipso one more time, he's going to show up.
I might. He might.
I would.
Yeah. So, everybody's under the power of Eclipso in this issue. And that's basically it. I mean, certainly we get Shadow Lass turning into Shadow Woman. And apparently when you become a woman, you just shave all your hair. So that's how you know.
I think she's wearing a skull cap.
She? I think
she tucked her hair up under a skull cap. And
okay. So wait, what year did Flash come out? The movie. Didn't that come out in 83?
Flash Gordon?
Yeah.
1980, I think.
Because the evil
woman,
Princess Aura, was it Princess Aura? I think she also had a crazy skull cap like that.
Crazy skull cap. They were all the rage in the 80s. Crazy skull caps.
Were they?
Yeah.
I can't remember anybody wearing one.
You just mentioned two people who did. Ha! Checkmate.
No,
Your
I didn't.
Story has more holes
because
in it
Max
than
Max Van Sydow didn't wear a skull cap.
Oh yeah. What about Patrick Stewart in Excalibur? Skull cap.
I don't think he wore a skull cap either.
Well, Merlin did. Skull cap.
That's not. No.
Skull.
No.
Cap.
Anyway, she's now Shadow Woman. Ha ha ha. The future is forever. They're going to live happily ever after. The end. This wasn't a horrible issue. It's got a lot of good action in it. It's got a lot of unresolved stuff that I'm not really a fan of.
Yes.
In this sense, because it feels like a lot of this stuff has been dragging on for a while. The will they kiss or won't they kiss thing has definitely been going on for like 3 issues. And needs to culminate in something.
Off the pot, you know what I'm saying?
It wasn't a horrible issue. I do not like the recoloring in this. I just think that it's garish top to bottom. It is. It's not great.
The original coloring was kind of drab, and I feel like they were trying to dress that up, especially in the fantasy realms. But I'm not a fan.
If you enjoy the show, we would appreciate your support. You can find out more and become a Legion Clubhouse member at patreon.com/majorspoilers. The Brave and the Bold, number 198, Terrorists of the Heart. Published May 1983. Written by Mike W. Barr with art by Rick Hoberg. Synopsis. Whatever happened to Iris Jacobs?
Well, you guys thought you were going to get an issue 300, but no. Remember, I gave you a little bit of foreshadowing in the last segment where I said Karate Kid is out doing a Brave and the Bold episode on newsstands now, and sure enough, we're doing Brave and the Bold, Batman and Karate Kid, which, interesting thing about Brave and the Bold, right? Brave and the Bold has been around since forever. Least ushering
1955.
Yeah, so about the same time as the Legion, right? And it was mostly not a backups, but a place to try out new things, right? The Justice League shows up in there. We see
the Teen Titans.
Yeah, Teen Titans. We see everybody just doing a bunch of different team ups. But then once we cross over into the late 70s and early 80s, especially with the DC explosion and then implosion, Batman is a big seller. And so Batman ends up becoming the lead in the Brave and the Bold, at least for a couple more issues, right? Because by the time we hit 200, I think we get
200
the
is the last issue of Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, and that's the introduction of the Outsiders in that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then they relaunch Brave and the Bold with the creative team from, or they launch Outsiders with the creative team that had been on Brave and the Bold.
Yeah. So this issue feels like it's a bit of a wrap up for both Brave and the Bold and the Karate Kid series that got axed prematurely, or maybe not prematurely. Maybe it got axed exactly when it needed to be axed.
Well, Karate Kid was cut short by the DC implosion because there are bits of Karate Kid in one of the issues of DC's canceled comics Cavalcade, which came out in 78 or 79 after all those books were canned all of a sudden. But it does seem like a long time has passed before we would go back and try and clean up whatever happened in the 70s.
And I'm not even sure, to be honest, I'm not even sure that this story needs to be told. in that Karate Kid, apparently, he's getting married to Princess Projectra. But for whatever reason, he feels like he needs to go back in time and go track down, what's-her-face?
Iris Jacobs.
Iris Jacobs, and tell her, hey,
Iris
baby.
West Jacobs.
Hey, baby, I'm getting married.
In his defense,
he's kind of dumb.
I don't feel like he led her on when he was in the past. I feel like,
I don't know, the issues that we read for this show, he certainly was leading her on.
I don't know. I don't necessarily feel like he was implying any sort of romance. Now, I will admit that he spent a lot of time with her, and I feel like he may not have made it 100% clear to her that he was just looking for a cool friend person.
Yeah, he just needed a place to stay.
Well, and paratrooping is a thing. Don't Google that. But yeah, it's weird. And this is an example of something that happens in comics that drives me nuts. And it's on a vaguely related note. You had me. I remember seeing this issue for the first time and grabbing it and going, Jim Aparo, Karate Kid. Oh yeah.
Except it's not Jim Aparo.
It's like, wow. Well, it's an Aparo cover.
It is.
They got me. But then you go to the inside and you're just like,
Rick Hoberg or something.
Hoberg isn't bad.
But it's Mike W. Barr, and I like Mike Barr's Batman stories that he writes. So he's doing fine here. And what happens is there's a gang violence in Gotham Village, which is one of the safer upper class areas of Gotham City, and yet there's people with Uzis and submachine guns. Killing police. I gotta tell you, ladies and gentlemen,
doesn't mean safe.
I gotta tell you, ladies and gentlemen,
the safest place in Gotham City could be like the valedictorian of high school.
I am surprised that this book has a CCA seal on it, because CCA code says you're not supposed to kill cops. You're not supposed to kill cops. And the first page, these guys are like blowing them away from the windows of this apartment building.
No, nobody died. It was
rubber bullets. Yes. Okay.
They were injured.
The rubber bullets, died. I swear. Yeah.
You can see those all went clear through the meat of their shoulders.
Yes, it went clear through their chests and out the other side. Anyway, there's a woman that's part of this, I don't know, neo-Nazi.
It kind of reminds me of Patty Hearst in the Liberation Army.
Except she was not kidnapped, right? Certainly the picture that they have of her from their archive file of her is kind of the same pose of Patty Hearst when she's doing her thing. But I don't think we have any Stockholm syndrome or that kind of stuff going on here. She's just a bad person. Blackheart is that her name?
Blackheart Army, and I'm just like, it really does feel like they're kind of cashing in on something. And I don't know, Patty Hearst isn't exactly front page news in 1982. It's a couple, 3 years old, but
there's a lot of people that are still talking about it. I remember in the mid 80s that Patty Hearst's name came up a lot. In conversation. Yeah.
Steven says I'm right, and that she's probably
because you said you didn't remember her name being up there, and I was like, no, I do.
And you just said, oh yeah, it totally happened, and I'm like, oh, so you're agreeing with me?
But no, I'm not agreeing that she's Patty Hearst, not at all. So anyway, this woman escapes out of jail. She's in protective custody. She gets out of jail because Pulsar Star. No, wait. Different Pulsar, not Pulsar Stargrave, but the Pulsar that Karate Kid did battle in his own series, a guy who was supposedly going straight because he's got the electric dynamo heart. Man, that would have made an awesome action figure, right? You just kind of like spin this dial. You spin this dial on his back, and he generates like static electricity charge that you can go and shock your friends with.
Why are all of your toys cruel?
That would be.
You're the reason why we can't have yard darts anymore.
No. I thought yard darts were fine. It was the dumb people that didn't know how to use them correctly.
At no point were you just like, hey, Tommy, stand over there.
No, never. I always thought they were dangerous. I was just like, well, I don't want that thing flying at me. Especially with young kids who didn't, they don't know when to release. So they like throw it up past the back of their head and it goes flying in the wrong direction. Ugh, those are creepy times, man. No, I was responsible for jorts. Jorts and lawn darts were the things that went together. Yes. So anyway, Pulsar shows back up to kill her in jail because she's narked on the crew. She escapes and runs into, she kills a guy first, just an innocent guy. She runs into Iris Jacobs. Iris brings her into the house and is like, yeah, we got to stick together, man. And then Karate Kid shows up with a cold for whatever reason. Not explained, kind of dumb.
Because he didn't get his shots. Remember, he's from the future where they don't have common colds or germs like gross and grody Gotham City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a thing.
It's just weird. And the only reason why he has a cold is so he picks up this tissue that the Black Heart lady was using to conceal a piece of glass that she used to stab a guy. And that's how they find out where she's at later. But then Karate Kid and Batman, they team up and they're like, hey, let's go do this. They go and they fight and they take down the bad guys and they take down Pulsar. And
Pulsar sort of takes himself down, but I do like the fact that Batman remembers Karate Kid from the Mordru team.
But why wouldn't he remember him, though? Because he's...
A lot of times, Brave and the Bold did not have that kind of grasp of continuity, so that's great. And I do like the fact that while Pulsar's return to criminality doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, we do finally get closure on his whole, oh my gosh, my heart could totally explode and take out a city block thing, which is nice. And it's a little creepy that Val shows up in his former landlady's bedroom in the middle of the night. You're like, hey, Mrs. Eichmann, it's me, Val. Ugh. Oh, dearie dear. And I got to say it is incredibly, incredibly contrived that Batman's quarry and Karate Kid's girlfriend person end up in the same room at the same time.
That's the thing that, how are we going to get these two together? I guess that's how we do it. I also like that I had an older copy of this that also includes the karate kung fu ads in the middle of the ad, as well as grit. Right? Didn't you used to sell grit?
No, but I like to reference selling grit.
Oh, okay. You never did sell it, huh?
I never did because that would have required me to do something. Although, the Olympic things where you're like, hey, sell stamps and greeting cards. My sister did that for a while.
Oh, yeah.
She never did get the mini bike, but.
Interesting. Anyway, everybody's back in custody. Karate Kid says, I'm sorry if I led you on. I came all the way back from the 30th century just to say that I'm getting married to somebody else. You're welcome to come to the wedding if you want.
I want you to come to the wedding, my friend. You're important to me, and I want you to come. And this is an invitation to hang out and be my friend. You're not going to,
but that's a problem, though. If she goes to his wedding, she's not going to remember the wedding.
She'll remember the basics of it. She'll just have her brain erased.
Yeah, she'll have to go back and have the whole events erased from her memory.
So Saturn Girl will give you like a general sense of it.
No, I don't think so. Anyway, she's like, I don't want any part of you, Karate Kid. Get away from me.
You used me.
I think you better leave. And he's just like, okay. And he just gets into his time bubble and floats away.
And Batman is just like, oh, hey, you like men in tights? Oh, yeah.
I've got a thing I've been thinking about that we'll have to bring up in another time. And another show, actually, in our Major Spoilers podcast pre-show. But
another show.
Yeah, so
this is a strange issue, honestly, because Brave and the Bold always kind of spins on an axis of what crazy, bizarro wackiness is going to happen to bring these characters together. But this one feels like it's like answering questions about the Karate Kid series, but we already saw some closure of Iris's Diamond Death. Mm-hmm. We saw the closure of Prince Voxov or King Voxov agreeing that Val can marry Projectra.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like Iris needed this moment of whatever you want to call it, closure or heartbreak or whatever. And I feel like the synthesis of the two plots, the not Patty Hearst plot with the, hey, I used to almost kind of date you and now you want to come to my wedding, tee-hee, I don't know. It feels like a weirdly imbalanced issue.
Yeah, it feels like it's.
I feel like
the art's fine.
Is great.
Yeah, and the story is fine. It just feels like somebody was like, "Man, we've got to wrap up this Karate Kid series from 4 years ago because we're getting letters every week, people asking what happened with Karate Kid, and we just saw what happened with Shrinking Violet and Duplicate Boy. We don't need the same thing. We don't need Iris." Living 3,000 years to come to the future and become a bad guy. We need some closure now. And DC editorial was just like, I guess we gotta answer the fans' request and put this together. And it's also kind of fitting that, as we said, The Brave and the Bold is going to end in 2 issues.
Right.
It's also fitting that Karate Kid was probably part of the reason why it ended in 2 more issues.
It's just cruel.
All right, that wraps it up for this installment of the Legion Clubhouse. Matthew, what did we learn this week?
We learned that lizard people talk like this.
I think we also learned that if you're going to ghost someone, just stay ghosted with them. There's no need to come back into their lives and tell them that you're having a great time and are getting married.
And most importantly, we learned don't go back to crime or else your heart will explode.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on the Legion Clubhouse. We certainly appreciate everything that you do. Join us over on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Major Spoilers. And until next time, I'm waiting for issue 300, man.
And I'm Mugato Kid.
The Legion Clubhouse is a production of Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC, and is produced by Steven Schleicher. Your hosts were Matthew Peterson and Steven Schleicher. You can follow Matthew at Mighty King Cobra and Steven at Major Spoilers. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Legion Clubhouse. If you have questions or comments, send them to podcast@majorspoilers.com. I'm Jason Inman. Until next time, eat it, Grandpa.
This podcast is copyright 2022 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.